Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 12 of This Week in Cloud Computing. I'm your host, Amanda Coulong, and I am in studio with Mark Jeffrey, my wonderful co-host.
Hello, Amanda. Oh, don't call me wonderful. I hate that. It actually does that to me, too. I don't like
wonderful,
I'm not,
darling.
No. None of those things. I'm not wonderful, just so we all know.
He likes to say that. Downplay, downplay. So, you know, This Week in Cloud Computing, and I believe we're going to have cloudy heads today because it's Cinco de Mayo.
The jokes continue. The cloud puns.
I have to have my cloud humor.
I know.
It's cheese.
I know. You got to do it. You got to get
out.
Just get out of your system now.
Okay, we're done. So, update number 1. We are going to be starting This Week in Cloud Computing at 3:30 p.m. Pacific time from now on. So mark your calendars. You can also check the calendar at thisweekend.com.
We do. We have a new calendar,
actually.
You go to This Weekend and go to Schedule on the front page.
Yes.
You'll see nice, neat, laid out version of when all of our shows are.
So you won't have to worry about missing it, but 3:30 from now on, so make sure you update accordingly. Some other network updates. This Weekend now has its own section on iTunes.
Yes, very excited about that.
Very excited. Doing really well so far, so make sure you go check us out on iTunes.
Yeah, just search for This Weekend, all one word, and you'll go right to it.
This Weekend. And we have also officially announced our very own app for Boxee this week.
That's right.
So if people don't know what Boxee is, it's a program that lets you watch web TV on your regular television.
That's right.
So they have a Boxee box and software that you can download. And
yeah, it's a couple different ways you can do it. It's at boxee.tv if you're curious.
Yep. And also, I know Miss Alana Joy, our co-host of This Week in Twitter, is in the chat room right now because I have been joking all week about something that I have that she'll really want.
You've been very mysterious about this.
I know, I'm very, very mysterious. So she hosts This Week in Twitter on Fridays at 11 with Lon, and I want you all to check out my new Twitter bling. This, folks, is my new Twitter bling that I also have in studio. You can't really see it here, but yes, it's my Twitter handle at @acoulong, and I know Miss Alana Joy is going to want one of these. So it's at Twitter bling. At Twitter bling. Yeah. So make sure, everyone, that you check out This Week in Twitter Fridays at 11 o'clock.
Yep, great.
And we also have an event update. All About the Cloud is a conference that's happening next week, and it's co-hosted by OpSource, who was one of our guests previously, and the SIAA. It's next week, May 10th through the 12th. So we have our very own This Week in Cloud Computing promo code. It's up there on screen, and that code will get you $100 off registration. So thank you, OpSource. And
we should read it aloud, too, in case you're listening to this on audio. It's the code is PRMOPCL. So use that and you'll get in. $100 off.
PRMOPCL, $100 off if you are a cloud computing listener this week in cloud. And of course, we also have great guests today.
Yes, we do.
So we have Sundar Raghavan, who's the Chief Product and Marketing Officer at SkyTap, joining us over Skype today. How are you, Sundar?
I'm doing very well. Thanks for the opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. We'll get to an interview with you shortly. And we also have Manish Kalia, who's the founder and VP of Marketing at Teneros, who's going to be showing us the app of the week called Social Sentry. So got him on the line. Can you hear us okay, Manish?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. Well, thank you so much. And one more big thank you goes out to our sponsors.
Yes,
of
as
course.
always.
This Week in Cloud Computing is brought to you by Verticore.
Yes.
Storm on Demand, and NetDNA. So it's at Verticore, at Storm on Demand, and at NetDNA CDN
yes,
on
please
Twitter.
thank our sponsors. We
thank
always
them,
enjoy that.
thank them, thank them.
We
they
do.
make this possible.
We hope you will as well. And you never know when I'm going to give away an iPad or
I know.
like that.
We have giveaways and we have codes for things.
I could do that very soon.
Oh.
And I will choose from among the people who
can hosts tweet out that we thank.
No, you can't win.
Oh, darn.
You can't win. Sorry.
I try. I really try, people.
So if you thank our sponsors, I'll be announcing the actual contest soon, but anyone who's been faithfully tweeting out thank you to our sponsors will be automatically entered. So.
And you can participate through our chat room right now. So make sure you're asking us questions. And of course, if you are trying to thank our sponsors, it's at TWiCC.
Yes, so I can find you.
Yes.
Need to find you.
And pound TWiCC.
That's right.
So without further ado, we have some news. So, top story, this is kind of interesting. IBM has acquired Cast Iron Systems for cloud integration. The press release, they stated, using cast iron systems, hundreds of pre-built templates and services expertise, expensive custom coding can be eliminated, allowing cloud integrations to be completed in the space of days rather than weeks or longer. You know, so again, it's just that whole timeliness, being able to speed things up. But really what I want to get at with this story, this is really a fundamental shift in thinking in terms of an established enterprise software vendor. Normally, they would not be talking this language. So is this announcement IBM's way of saying that the old models of custom integration are obsolete? Mark.
Yes, it is diametrically opposed to everything IBM has almost ever stood for throughout its entire existence. So it's like I'm struggling to think of the analogy, but it's like the Empire in Star Wars suddenly saying, "Oh, we love freedom. It's awesome." And not that IBM's evil, but this is very against the grain of what they do. They typically sell services, so they sell hardware.
It would be like Apple using Flash.
Yes, it would be like Apple using Flash. So it's almost shocking that they would come out and say something like this. So they must feel.
I'm surprised they let the press release even have that kind of quote.
Well, it's smart. I mean, it's smart because people are feeling somebody else is going to do it if they don't. Right. So if you don't cannibalize your own existing marketplace, somebody else will. It's been done to them before by Microsoft, and ad nauseum, this story has happened again and again. So for them to come out and say, you know what, we're just going to have these templates available. We acquired this company to do this, and we're going to throw this stuff out there. You don't really need our services anymore. Use our templates and our software, and that will onboard you into the cloud. It's great. I think it's a smart move.
Yeah, me too. Sundar, do you have any thoughts on this announcement?
Yeah, this is very consistent with the technology evolution. If you step back and look at the 10 years before Web 2.0, you had client-server technology. Everyone claimed client-server will replace mainframe. And then we all claimed web will replace client-server. What I feel is most of these technologies are very additive in nature. People don't throw away their mainframe. Completely agree with you that it's a very revolutionary thinking on the part of IBM. But we have seen companies go to cloud and bring their enterprise applications at SkyTab and use it in conjunction with the software investments that they have made in their data centers. In other words, cloud is acting as an extension of their existing data centers. New applications, new models are being created in the cloud. At the same time, people rarely ever throw away their old way of thinking or old investments that they have made. So we welcome IBM. I think more the better. But we also think this is a nice way of expanding the cloud market.
Sure. And what about you, Manish? Do you think that this is really where the big enterprise software guys are going to start going?
Right. I mean, this is definitely a very interesting move. But, one thing I wanted to mention is that if you look at IBM's traditional customer base, it's been more of the enterprise customers. And what they are really trying to do here is get into the mid-market, because what we have seen in the last 2 to 3 years is that mid-market is adopting cloud-based services and SaaS services in a big way. And that's not been traditionally a strong market for IBM's professional services, but this lets them get in an economical manner.
So you don't think it's a shift? You think it's actually market expansion?
I mean, yeah, because, see, IBM has been selling a lot of professional services, actually, to the enterprise market, but they have struggled to do so in the mid-market because of affordability. This lets them get there because since your mid-market companies are now adopting Salesforce, they are adopting all these standard cloud-based solutions, this lets them get into that market. They wouldn't have sold a lot of professional services there in the first place. Now, there will be some erosion in the enterprise market, but, I think this is more of a mid-market play for them.
Interesting. This actually squares with where we think the sweet spot in the cloud has been over the past year, so that makes sense.
So I'm curious just to see who else comes out with similar sorts of announcements in the weeks to come. All right, well, story number 2. I'm actually going to start with a question on this one because it's such an obvious one and we haven't asked it before. Who the heck owns cloud.com?
We have never asked that. I know.
We've never asked that. So Dell owns cloudcomputing.com.
Right. But they don't own cloud.com.
Right, but they do not own cloud.com. So this is kind of a TMZ sort of story for cloud here because there's even discrepancy in terms of who has owned the domain name before.
I think that's the big controversy facing the internet. So VM Ops owns it now. So
yes,
if you go and look
VMOps is a startup that just purchased it in early 2010.
So we know who owns Cloud.com now. We don't have to go to who is and go look it up.
Exactly, we know.
But we don't know who owned it before. That's the weird thing.
Yes.
So that's the mystery. So why don't you tell us about the mystery?
Well, the mystery is, it was owned by what they're saying an individual in the tech business. And they wouldn't say how much it was sold for. None of the details are out there. They're being very tight-lipped about it. So it's a discrepancy between two people. It was either the personal website of the live journal creator Brad Fitzpatrick or Scott Heiferman, the CEO and co-founder of Meetup.
Yes.
So Brad is saying that it was actually owned by Scott and that I guess Brad was hosting a personal site on something that Scott was doing.
So this is my reading of it. I read the same article. So my reading of it was that Brad Fitzpatrick, live journal creator, was hosting it. So if you went and looked on who is, it would say Brad Fitzpatrick is the one who has it.
Exactly.
But Brad is saying the person who actually owned it was Scott Heiferman.
Right.
Right. Which happens all the time. I've actually parked my domains with friends who had extra server space or whatever, for one reason or another. And so my reading, and then when they contacted Scott, Scott was like, no comment.
Yeah.
And just basically was, nope, not talking about it.
They don't want to talk about it.
So my guess is, and this is just a guess, I know nothing, but based on sort of how I know how these things sort of go down, I'll bet Scott basically asked Brad to host it for him. Brad said yes. Mm-hmm. He hosted it for him, and now that it's sold, Scott doesn't want to say how much he made and get into the whole that discussion.
Exactly.
So that's
I would place my bets the same. But at any rate, this startup that purchased Cloud.com is VMOPS, but they're actually going to start calling themselves Cloud.com now.
Yes.
Now that they own the domain, which is interesting. Very brilliant. Great marketing move. Yep. So they purchased it in early 2010, and then yesterday they just relaunched the site, the new site. And so their offering is an open source software for building cloud networks. It's similar to Eucalyptus.
Okay.
And they're calling it Cloud Stack, and 98% of it is from software licensed under the GNU public license.
Ah, okay.
So just wanted to throw that out there. I mean, does anybody else have any comments on the whole Cloud.com thing? Have you heard anything yourselves? Sundar, have you heard anything?
Well, I mean, I don't know if they're going to gain any more traction just by naming themselves Cloud. For what it's worth, we call our product SkyTab Cloud. I think it's more to do with the technology underneath it. Everything these days, including individual hardware appliance vendors, are calling themselves as cloud vendors. So we'll see how this evolves.
Exactly.
I totally disagree with you. I'd like to introduce the Cloud Pad. All I have to do is call it Cloud something, and it's the cloud. No, just kidding.
The Cloud Pad. I knew you had to bring it up.
I had to bring it up.
Well, if people want to learn about their Cloud Pad, when is the iPad show?
That is at 4 o'clock tomorrow, so on Thursdays.
Thursdays at 4 p.m.
Yep. This week in Cloud, or sorry, this week in iPad.
This week in iPad.
This week in iPad. This week in Cloud Pad. No, this week in iPad.
All right, well, let's move on. Story number 3, NTT America has announced its own enterprise cloud computing solution, and it actually leverages the OpSource clouds. So we've had OpSource as a guest before on the show, and their CEO, Treb Ryan, who we spoke with, said the OpSource cloud capabilities combine the flexibility, availability, and community of the public cloud with the security, performance, and control the enterprise needs. So the companies that these two companies, NTT and OpSource, they're banking on the notion that pairing the OpSource cloud with NTT America's secure data center infrastructure will help remove the barriers to entry for enterprise clouds. What do you think, Sundar?
I think that's a fair and smart comment on the part of Treb, I guess. I think a lot of enterprises these days are in early stages of adoption. Specifically, they have questions around security, scalability, and reliability of cloud infrastructure. And they also want to, as we were discussing earlier, they don't want to throw away all the investments they have made in their data center. Companies have spent millions, if not billions of dollars building their data centers and applications. They are looking at cloud as an extension of their data center that requires them to administer their policies. So I agree with a lot of the comment. I think the companies that can provide the bridge between current data centers and cloud infrastructure, allow flexible move between the data centers, would benefit a lot from this adoption curve.
What about you, Mark? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I read the story and it sort of felt like, it just sounded like NTT was doing a Me Too kind of play. I mean, to be honest with you, it didn't really sound like there was anything terribly new there. If you knew.
Well, they're leveraging OpSource cloud, so I mean, it's already OpSource.
Right. So I just kind of went, okay, so there's another company providing cloud services that sound pretty much like everyone else that I've heard so far. So
Manish, do you
wasn't
agree?
exciting to me.
Manish, do you think that they're just jumping on the bandwagon for cloud?
Right. I mean, the interesting thing which we are seeing with the cloud is it's becoming more of a commodity play, which is not a bad thing. It makes it cheaper and affordable for the markets. But what that does is that it allows the big players to come in. We've already seen Amazon there for a long time, and now we're seeing a lot of big players come in. So really, this is an attempt by NTT to, enter that market as it should, and it already has a lot of customer base where it can sell into.
Mm-hmm.
So the story is their size for you. The fact that a player that large is moving in, they believe it's a commodity, and so is that
right? I mean, I think it's a great way for a company like NTT to monetize their existing customer base with cloud-based services, and it's a win-win situation because for OpSource, they get a huge channel to kind of sell those services through.
Sure, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Fair enough. Moving on, we have a lot of government stories pop up as it relates to
cloud. We have like one a week.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So the federal government is soon going to be announcing the Federal Risk and Authorization Management Pilot Program. Say that 10 times fast. It's called FedRAMP.
Or FedRAMP.
Or FedRAMP.
Yes.
Let's just say FedRAMP. And its goals are to create a single set of cloud computing standards across the entire government and to ease the agency certification process. Peter Mell from NIST, what's NIST?
National Institute of something.
Yeah, of something.
Standards.
Yeah, is chairing the Federal Cloud Computing Advisory Council, so I'm going to keep my eyes open for things coming out of him. But what I want to get at with this one is whether it succeeds or fails, how do you think the FedRAMP program will impact the cloud computing market overall? Because so much is being focused on government right now, and other countries are looking to the U.S. government as it's relating to cloud computing. What do you think, Mark?
Well, I think before anybody answers that, I just want to clarify a little bit. Mm-hmm. So what this means is that if one federal government agency approves a vendor's cloud setup in terms of security, in terms of capabilities, et cetera, then that means all federal government. So right now, if one, so basically the Department of Housing approves it.
Yep.
That doesn't mean that the IRS can go and use it without going through the same approval process, right?
Exactly.
So this is an attempt
standardizing
to
the whole process.
centralize the approval process for all the federal government, for all vendors. Mm-hmm. So to that extent, I think if it fails, then the market, it doesn't open up the federal market, or at least greatly hinders the development of the federal market. If it succeeds, I think it greatly helps the development of the federal market. I think it's really great for everyone. So I think everyone here hopes that it's going to succeed.
Or do you think that cloud computing vendors are going to look at it as just the niche vertical of government, or do you think they'll look at that?
No, I think they will if it fails.
Yeah.
Because then it's just like, any one of these departments is potentially not large enough. I guess it depends on who you are, but if they can sell into the entire federal government en masse, I think that is obviously much more attractive to them.
Sure. Manish, what do you think? Do you think that FedRAMP is really going to impact the cloud computing market?
Yeah, I think it is going to impact, but in another 3 years, because by the time it rolls out and by the time it's in operation, it's going to definitely take time. Mm-hmm. But once it does, I mean, absolutely. I mean, this is basically bringing a cloud mainstream into the federal government, because now you can get a contract, one contract with a central agency, and you have the ability to scale up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Absolutely. Sundar, do you have any thoughts on this? What do you think about the standardization piece?
I think I agree with everything that has been said. One other perspective I would offer is federal government is one of the largest IT spenders. So the standardization process helps younger companies like us to not have to deal with 20 different agencies. Typically, young startup companies don't focus on the federal market because the process is usually very time-consuming and it takes a long time to get something done. If the standardization occurs, then the adoption can come faster. 3 years seems to be a good estimate.
Okay.
That makes sense, actually. Yeah, the federal government is a lot longer lead time. So,
exactly.
Sure.
Well, moving on, story number 5. Intel has led a $40 million investment round in Virtue Streams cloud service. So they're a data center co-location and services company, and they're expanding with the purchase of 2 data centers, one in California, one in Virginia, and the release of Xstream. So that's their cloud platform, and it's aimed at mid-size enterprises. So the question with this, $40 million. Are we going to be seeing more investments of this size and stature, or are we going to be seeing more acquisitions? We've seen a lot of those too. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what's in Intel's mind here. I did read the article briefly, and I was trying to puzzle it out. I ran out of time, actually, to go through everything I wanted to go through to figure this one out, so I'm going to throw this one to our guests.
Okay. Manish, what are your thoughts? Do you think we're going to see more investments of this size, or do you think we're going to see more acquisitions in cloud computing?
I think it's in line with the trend which we have already seen, like the Entity America trend. Large corporations who were earlier providing one layer of the infrastructure, like Intel was providing hardware and, Microsoft might be providing software, they are fast realizing that they need to morph into being a cloud vendor because people are buying the whole stack. So, it's just in line with them. This investment is a way for Intel to remain in the market so that if it were to offer cloud-based services, it can do that easily. And so I think it's definitely going to be a trend we're going to see with the larger vendors going ahead.
Okay. Sundar, any thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with that. It's very similar to the telecom model. If you think about how companies were investing, AT&T and Sprint and others, they built these mega networks. But in the end, what's really winning over are the apps. So there would be some amount of additional investments, but I think there is plenty of cloud computing infrastructure capacity being built between Amazon and Google and Salesforce and companies like us. I think real adoption will accelerate when the right applications come along, whether it's existing applications or newer applications.
Okay. And speaking of data centers, particularly in Virginia, Microsoft is rumored to be close to a deal to build a data center in Christiansburg, Virginia.
Yep.
And the website Data Center Knowledge recently announced the top 10 data centers in the world ranked by square footage, and 4 of them are owned by Microsoft. So, they're all in.
They're all in the cloud. As Steve Ballmer said several weeks ago, we are all in. We're betting everything, all our chips.
All the chips are in.
Ready to go.
But what I'm wondering is, more than anything, is cloud computing going to impact server sales?
What do you mean?
Well, we're looking at, all of these data centers. More and more people are creating their own data centers. On the hardware side.
So, theoretically, cloud computing gives you efficiencies in terms of hardware. So, theoretically, yes, and it would lower the number of servers that are sold. So it probably explains one of the reasons why Intel's getting into actually providing cloud services, because once you sell the machine, it's done, and you're going to sell less of them. However, if you're selling cloud services, then you can resell it and resell it and resell it, and basically amortize the cost over. Basically the cost of the machine is X, and you can get X plus a large Y that you actually end up selling to end user or end customers.
Right.
So, so in this instance, I think Microsoft is. Microsoft has said that they're in for the long haul in the cloud. So I think this is more about software for them than it is hardware.
Okay. What do you think, Sundar? Are we looking at Microsoft is focusing on expanding out, building another data center? How is this impacting things?
I think your earlier question on will it impact server sales?
Yeah.
It's a very good one. I think it's the time horizon is important. Right now, the cloud computing model is in very nascent early stages. So companies are still buying servers, installing it in their data centers, while they're tipping their toes in trying to figure out how to use this public cloud infrastructure, whether it's provided by Microsoft or Google or Salesforce, or virtual private cloud infrastructure like SkyTabs. Over time, when these infrastructure gains mainstream adoption, you can anticipate companies don't have to buy as many data centers or servers as they need to. But I think in the short term, over the next 3 to 5 years, you will actually see more servers being sold because 2 types of infrastructures are simultaneously being created, the current model and then the new model. So I actually think it's a good thing for Intel to be investing because it's going to continue to expand their market for them.
That's a really interesting point. So in the short term, server sales are probably doing really well because you still have companies that are buying stuff internally and jumping on
That's a very good insight. Yeah, the time schedule is. I hadn't thought of that, but you're right. Actually, it's probably very good right now.
Yeah, Manish, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Actually, you have to repeat the question because I was having a little bit of hard time hearing what. Yeah.
We're talking about how Microsoft is about to close a deal on another data center that they're going to put in Virginia, and that out of the top 10 data centers in the world ranked by square footage, 4 of them are owned by Microsoft. And when you look at just the impact of cloud computing overall right now, is it impacting server sales?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's an interesting metric because what's happening really is that if you look at the number of units sold in terms of servers, yes, you will see the impact. But if you look at the number of processors sold, you may not actually see the impact because what's happening is as you're moving to the cloud, the density of processors to servers is increasing dramatically with blades and with new platforms. So it's becoming much more efficient to deploy them. So, it's an interesting stat, but you may see the servers go down, but the processing is going up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, you just made me think about this. In cloud computing is a gold rush. The shovels are servers. So, and there will be a lot of losers as well as winners, I think. So,
exactly.
But whoever sells the shovels will definitely win.
The shovels.
At least in the beginning.
You've got great analogies.
Well, it's my author power is coming to bear. So.
Well, that wraps up the news. I think, I'm kind of hearing something here in LA.
I think you may be right.
Again,
I'm sitting up straighter.
Oh.
My powers are returning. In fact, I'm wearing my full storm shirt today. Storm on demand. Storm on demand. Storm on demand is an infrastructure as a service cloud computing platform that is powerful enough to replace dedicated servers, but not my CloudPad. No, actually, I can replace that too. A proprietary cloud platform that was designed by Liquid Web, one of the largest web hosting providers with over 12 years of experience. It is easier to use and less expensive than Amazon EC2. Features include server setup in minutes, easy scaling, backup and restoration capabilities, and pay-as-you-go utility-style billing. Options for Storm on Demand include cool little guys with bionic eyes that you can see through in, like Steve Austin. Also, cPanel, Fantastico, Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, fully managed servers, private networking, and much, much more. What are you doing? Storm on Demand, stormondemand.com. I don't know what the hell I don't know what you're doing. We're going to figure that out later. I'm going to play that back later. I'm going to find out what you're doing.
Don't tell him. Don't.
Yes, because I won't actually watch the show afterwards and find out.
Anyway, let's have a chat with Sundar.
Let's do that.
So, Sundar Raghavan, you're the Chief Product and Marketing, I can't even speak right today, Officer at SkyTap.
That's what that commercial will do to you.
That's what the commercial does.
It's the power of the storm.
I know, it's the power. Storm on Demand. Storm on Demand on Twitter.
I thought it was my Salmon shirt.
Yeah, I know. He's got it completely on there today. So, we've got SkyTap here. Last year, you joined SkyTap from Google. So you were a senior member of the enterprise team responsible for marketing the Postini product. So you were actually also part of Postini before it was acquired by Google, correct?
Yes.
Great. So you've got a successful 18-year career in product and marketing roles. So it's not just Google, but Ariba, Arbor Software, now part of Oracle, and MicroStrategy. So let's jump into SkyTap. So it started, I was looking at not that long ago, it was more cloud-based virtual lab solutions, but you've since kind of shifted, and now it's the SkyTap Cloud is more a self-service cloud automation solution for dynamic workloads. Do you want to go into a little bit of detail about how the cloud works?
Sure. I think every young company like us, we start with one particular application use case in mind. In our case, it was automating the individual lab configurations that IT teams were creating, whether it's for development, test purposes, or training purposes. But over the 18 months, what we have seen from customers is they are starting to buy into our cloud automation platform for multiple use cases. They range from development and test, training, sales demonstration, application migration, and so on and so forth. So what we really see here is a platform that allows customers to automate their provisioning, billing, policy management, on which they can build a number of applications that I highlighted. So we really thought the right way to go about to the market is not just lab automation, it's really about automating cloud instances, helping companies accelerate their transformation to the cloud. So we felt that's the right evolution for us.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm amazed that you can just so easily import and run enterprise applications in the cloud like that. I mean, it's very easy with your solution.
That's one of the things that attracted me quite a bit from working at Google. One of the things I saw was Google has this amazing data centers, amazing people, but the infrastructure is accessible only through either Google applications or you can create Google app.
Oh. Dun, dun, dun.
Or Skype.
There he is. Are you back? We're back.
We're back. A little hiccup there.
We had a hiccup. You're back.
Okay. companies have spent all these billions of dollars building ERP applications, SharePoint applications, all kinds of applications. They are not going to spend additional money rewriting them to a Google App Engine API or a Salesforce.com API. So I felt SkyTab has a very unique offering in the market that's going to continue to help companies move to the cloud faster than other approaches that are in the market.
Mm-hmm. You were originally known more for the lab automation strategy, and now you've shifted gears. I'm curious about, or were you trying to seize a market opportunity? You know, what was the reasoning there, or was it a natural progression?
As I was explaining earlier, we had customer adoption go from single use cases to multiple use cases. We also see cloud being used by customers as an extension of their data center. We were discussing this earlier. A lot of customers are looking at what's happening in their data center. Their data centers are optimized for running very predictable applications where they can plan the capacity, dedicate resources, allocate machines, and so on. But they have all these ongoing needs on application migration, testing, training. Right. By moving those dynamic workloads to the cloud, but making it appear to be a natural extension of their data center, customers are having the benefit of both. They can run their core applications in their data center. They can move dynamic workloads to the cloud. That is the natural progression for us. We are seeing more and more large companies coming to us and saying, can you take these things off my data center and run it in the cloud? Mm-hmm. And that requires us to run these applications without having to rewrite them.
Now, how do you handle such a wide range of applications? I mean, what is the secret sauce which allows you to do what apparently Google has not succeeded at doing in terms of a lot of people that migrate like that?
Great question. The way we organize our infrastructure has three parts to it. There is a server virtualization, which allows us to abstract the operating system. Mm-hmm. There is a network virtualization, which allows us to create virtual network infrastructure in the cloud. And there is a storage virtualization. Now, these pieces are available individually. What we have done is really put together all of them together, plus a provisioning and a billing and a policy management framework on top of it. What then allows us to do is take a SharePoint application, run it in the cloud, create clustering and failover support, allocate as many storage as you want from an on-demand perspective. And once you go through the entire migration process, you can move it back to your data center if you have the infrastructure, or continue to run it in the cloud. That's been really the secret sauce that has been created over the last 3 years in the company.
So basically you virtualize every aspect, or at least most aspects, of an actual physical data center and network and operating system, and all the pieces and pertinent parts. Mm-hmm. And exactly. Okay, so next question is, since there's all these layers of virtualization, how does that not add a lot of fat and overhead to the processing and speed?
So again, a fantastic question. I think the way we have adopted these technologies, the way we have built and how we allocate storage and how we do read writes, those things play a role. Plus, you also have to look at how server CPU speed has been basically doubling every year. The Moore's Law is helping us more and more. Every year, when we build the next level of data center capacity, we are buying the next generation of servers and faster storage devices and so on and so forth. So naturally, we are taking advantage of the progression that happens in the technology, and we put a lot of emphasis on how we optimize speed in our own software applications. We try to do a couple of things in a very unique way that allows us to provision new instances really fast than having to go through the traditional model.
Yeah, I buy that actually. Hardware is cheaper and cheaper all the time, and faster, and all the rest of it, so that makes sense.
One important thing that we haven't talked about yet, SkyTab was actually the only cloud automation provider that was selected as a partner for the Google Apps Marketplace launch.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. So you can actually go buy this stuff in the Google App Store.
Right. Do you want to talk about how that happened, Sundar? I wonder.
Sure. Well, there was I have lots of friends at Google, but Google is a very meritocracy-based organization. Google was going through their apps marketplace evolution, and they were focusing on building business apps that will be part of, they'll work with Google Apps. And they invited us to be part of the program. And I think what we are bringing to the table on that side is Google Apps and Google App Engine API are fantastic tools for companies to move their desktop productivity applications, whether it's mail, calendar, docs, spreadsheets, to the cloud and run everything in the cloud. Like we were discussing earlier, we have infrastructure and an application automation platform that can run enterprise applications that have been written before Google infrastructure was created. So we are able to bring those enterprise apps, run it in concert with Google Apps. We internally called it as No App Left Behind initiative. So
I like that. Yeah, tell us a little more about No App Left Behind.
Yeah, I think what Google Apps Marketplace allows companies to do is to buy extra or buy SaaS applications that are available in the marketplace integrated with Google Apps. So as a user, similar to how you are used to desktop applications, you will have cloud applications for mail, calendar, and docs. And right along with it, you will see an option for adding SkyTab. When you add SkyTab, you can now run your enterprise application, whether it's SAP, Oracle, or your homegrown retail management application, right along with your Google Apps. So literally everything is running in the cloud. And that way, Google brings new applications to the cloud. We bring existing applications to the cloud. And that's the No App Left Behind.
Is Microsoft going to be left behind?
Well, they will have to answer that one. I think Microsoft is doing some very interesting things on the Azure platform, and they're doing some very exciting things on their cloud initiative. On our part, a lot of our customers run Microsoft infrastructure on our cloud. So we have SharePoint customers, we have SQL Server customers. So we are excited about what Microsoft is doing. At the same time, we want to help customers leverage their Microsoft infrastructure in the cloud using SkyTab.
Yeah. Absolutely. You were talking about just speed and that sort of thing. Well, I love case studies, and you guys have a great case study that you just announced recently. Slalom Consulting used the SkyTab Cloud to deploy its Microsoft SharePoint practice, actually, to nearly 1,000 consultants across 9 U.S. offices. And in just 1 week, 1 week.
1 week.
They rolled out accounts to all team members and have now seen a 60% reduction in their total cost of ownership compared to running the practice on their internal infrastructure. 1 week. 1,000 consultants, 1 week.
The more I'm thinking about my question about virtualization and and slowness, it sort of doesn't matter. Because most applications like this one, I'm thinking about this one you don't need, it's not a video game. You don't need instant response. So it's probably for 99.9% of it, it's completely immaterial. So that's virtualized as opposed to on actual hardware.
But what I want to know too, Sundar, is what other numbers are you seeing from customers? I mean, 60% reduction in total cost of ownership. I mean, is that a typical number that you're seeing with your customers?
Yeah, it's very typical on the total cost of ownership side. And Slalom Consulting is not alone. We have over 100 customers. A lot of them really also appreciate the fact that they don't have to wait around for physical boxes be provisioned and managed and routers to be created. So a typical enterprise business user, if they wanted to have access to, let's say, a 2-machine configuration, they'll have to wait somewhere between 6 to 8 weeks because somebody has to approve a purchase order, somebody has to buy the machine, they have to image them, and they have to set it up. All of this goes away. In SkyTab, you can literally, similar to iTunes, you can go to the SkyTab library, pick an image template, provision yourself, run it. Once your purpose is done, you can hit the delete button. Nobody ever gets hurt. No boxes ever gets opened. So
no boxes were hurt in making of this cloud.
Exactly. I love it.
Exactly. That's the reason why companies like Slalom Consulting and others are able to really deploy the solution in a self-service model to hundreds of users in practically 1 week. And they're all productive the very next day. It's a very intuitive application. If you know how to use iTunes, you know how to use SkyTab.
Okay.
Cool.
Out of, you're mentioning different dynamic workloads. Which of those are the most popular that you've found so far?
So we're starting to see 4 use cases emerge. Application development and test, which is primarily developers building multi-tier applications using cloud as a scalable on-demand infrastructure. Virtual training, where people are selling their individual software applications, but they are providing hands-on classroom environments in the cloud using SkyTab. And sales engineers use SkyTab to demonstrate their product, create custom demonstrations in the cloud. Those 3 are typical use cases. We nearly have 30%, 30%, 30% on all of them. The most exciting one, more recently, especially the last year, has been around virtual private clouds, where large companies are creating cloud instances and connected to their data center using what we internally call it as IPsec VPN tunnels. And that allows them to really create machines in the SkyTab cloud and connect it back to the data center in a bidirectional way. That we have seen, it's 10% of our use cases, but it's growing the fastest in terms of number of companies asking for it. So we see those 4 use cases playing really well.
Interesting. And last question that I have, and of course, Mark, throw anything in here that you want. Everything that can be done through SkyTab's web interface can also be done using the APIs. Yeah. So what are the benefits of API access?
Great question. A lot of our users are functional users. They like going into the UI using a browser and provisioning and running reports and all of that. Quite a few of our users are also application developers and consultants. They would rather prefer to hit a script and have it automatically provision machines or do a load testing where they can spin up hundreds and thousands of machines. The API allows them to exactly do everything they can do in the API, in the UI, via the API as well. So really it's taking cloud automation to the next level and programmatically exchange with the cloud whatever provisioning processes that you want to do. That allows us to be a lot more nimble and agile as well.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today, Sundar. And it's Sundar Raghavan with SkyTab. So
yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome. I believe we have another sponsor to thank.
Is your cloud hosting provider letting you down? I can't believe they would let you down, Amanda.
I know.
That's just a low-down, dirty cloud hosting provider.
Awful.
That's a dark cloud over your head.
Big.
That's right. You have to get rid of them. You have to broom them. Get them out of your system, man.
Sweep them away.
Take a look at managed private cloud solutions from Verticore, because they are really awesome. A managed cloud private cloud solution can easily replace your current IT infrastructure and eliminate IT pains. Avoid the cost and hassle of buying and maintaining IT equipment and software. Deliver 100% uptime to end users. You configure and deploy resources in just minutes. With Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. With Verticore, your private cloud is hosted in an advanced and secure data center, which uses only best-in-class hardware and software and gives you access to scalable bandwidth. Verticore's team of experts monitor and maintain your private cloud 24/7 by 365. It's Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Verticore, oh Verticore, you should be using Verticore. Thank you.
My silly co-host.
Oh, you got to give the sponsors their money worth, man.
Oh, I know.
Come back.
And where can people find Verticore?
Verticore.com. VIRTACORE.com. Please thank them on Twitter also, Verticore.com.
Thank them on
At
Twitter.
Verticore.
Well, now we have a product demo because we have an app of the week. So we are now back. I am Amanda with This Week in Cloud Computing, in case you forgot.
Yes, you're still here.
Because some people are joining us
And you're still
now.
you.
And I'm still me. And we have Manish Kalia, founder and VP of Marketing at Teneros, on the line. I hope. Are you still there, Manish?
Yes, I'm here.
And we are going to be talking about Social Sentry. Now, before, I would like to at least mention that Manish pioneered the development and the launch of the first appliance-based high-availability platform for Microsoft messaging infrastructure. Is that a mouthful? Yes.
I was like, what's the middle part again?
I know, the messaging, Microsoft, lots of
It's a high-availability platform for messaging that's an appliance, I think.
Yes.
I think I got it. Okay. So it's hardware.
So yes, I wanted to throw out there what you've done in the past, Manish, with your background. But let's jump. I want to jump into this demo of Social Sentry because this can be a little bit controversial.
Controversial.
To some extent, but in a good way, though. I think it's important. So Social Sentry was a software as a service application that was launched a demo. And it looks at employees' public communications to make sure they're not disseminating sensitive corporate information. So it's really good for public companies that don't want to put financial information out there or have it leaked out there. Right. So you've got corporations that are monitoring employee communication anyway. Right. And so, Social Sentry is a way to tap into the social networking portion of that right now with Twitter and Facebook and probably extending out. Am I right, Manish? Do you have other things beyond those two right now?
We target Facebook and Twitter right now, and because those are definitely two of the most prominent social networks being used today. But we are planning to add support for additional networks, including LinkedIn and YouTube.
Sure. And it's keyword based, correct?
Absolutely. And the key part here is, what we have seen in the last 12 to 18 months is a lot of companies have been impacted by events where, an employee accidentally or maliciously leaks either sensitive corporate information or damages the brand. And once again, we are talking more about public comments made by employees, which are accessible by everyone, not so their private communication.
Exactly.
So, that is the threat which companies are beginning to see, and this really helps them alleviate that.
So it's not just financial information, it's also things like movie titles and stuff, right?
Absolutely. See, what we've seen is, whether you take the recent event where Domino's had an employee upload a video which was damaging to the brand, or, the recent events at British Airways, Vodafone, it can be anything as an employee disclosing financial information, telling about an upcoming movie or a product which is about to launch, or, saying bad things about the brand or the customer.
Okay. Well, why don't we jump into a little bit of a demo here? I'd like to see on screen kind of how Social Sentry works.
Sure, absolutely. So it's a fairly simple product to deploy and install. As you can see, it's a software as a service offering, so it's fairly easy to use. You can log into the web interface from pretty much anywhere. What it lets you do is two or three key things. One is it lets you discover your employees on Facebook and Twitter. So your employees may be using their personal aliases or a personal name, and it lets you find those employees and track them. Once you have discovered your employees, what it lets you do is create rules for monitoring different aspects of things such as brand, or, leakage of financial information, anything which you want to monitor your employees' public communication on the social networks, you can create rules. And the creation of rules is pretty straightforward. And the last part really there is alerts. So if one of your employees were to post something which would be in violation of a rule, you would get alerted with it pretty fast so that you can react to it.
Now, I think an important point to make with this is that, companies are monitoring employees', public communication anyway. Yeah. So this is a good way of just automating that process.
Absolutely. And, as we all know, if you are publicly making comments about a brand or about, disclosing some information, so there's always a responsibility which comes along with making public disclosures. And if a company can be damaged for millions of dollars from those comments, they definitely, will try to monitor it. And as you already said, they're already doing a lot of monitoring. So it's not like they cannot get to this information. This tool just helps them automate it and discover it. One of the key parts of this tool is that it lets you monitor your employee comments even when they're occurring from anywhere, whether it's their phone, their workplace, or their home computers.
Yeah, I think this is actually not that controversial in my opinion, because it's not like you're monitoring their email. Right. I think there is some debate.
Yeah.
And I'm a big privacy person myself. I'm very high in privacy. This doesn't freak me out at all. This is I have gone and put these comments out on the public internet, in Twitter, Facebook, etc. I'm responsible for them, and I've broadcast them. It's not like it's privileged communication between me and another person.
Exactly.
This is broadcast that you're doing on these networks. So I actually think this is completely non-controversial.
Yeah. Well, I think it's more, from what I've heard, just in general from the community, it's less about privacy and more, well, that's my personal account that I use for X, Y, and Z. But I think the response then is when you sign up as an employee of a company, there are policies.
If you sign a non-disclosure agreement with a company, then even in your personal communications, that NDA applies.
Exactly.
So.
Right, and the other point to keep in mind is, I mean, if you're using your personal account just for your personal communication with your friends and your colleagues, I mean, that's not being monitored. That's completely off the radar.
Right.
But if you're using that personal account to make statements on the internet, then, there's a certain responsibility. I mean, if an employee goes out and discloses the financial results for a company before they are out, I mean, there's obviously an element of unethical practices going on there.
Yeah. Now, are you selling this into more of the HR people, the marketing people, both? I mean, who's your target with it?
That's a great question. We actually finding a variety of targets. So, one target is obviously our compliance and information security teams within the organization, because they're usually responsible for finding if any information gets leaked or any damage is happening. The second area is HR and marketing, where they're worried either about the brand or they're worried about, some negative impact from customers, because we have had incidents where recent incident where, British Airways had some of its employees saying inappropriate things about customers on publicly. So, marketing and HR are definitely also interested from that aspect.
Okay. Well, is there anything else that you would like to show us here in the demo on screen?
This is a fairly easy product to kind of walk through, and as I was mentioning, I'll quickly walk through how you would install it and how you would use it in like a minute.
Sure.
And so when you want to deploy the solution, it's as simple as going in and providing some basic information about your network so that our cloud-based solution can monitor your employee communication. We require you to make a few basic changes on your side, which essentially allows us to start detecting your accounts for Twitter and Facebook, and you can even add new accounts here. So if you have a specific account which you would like to monitor, you can definitely add those accounts here. Once those accounts are added, it's really up to you to go and change your rules, modify your rules, and create different types of criteria which you are looking to monitor. For example, you can select the network you want to monitor. You can also select some predefined templates, like if an employee is leaking out credit card numbers, social security numbers, or
passwords,
any type of information.
Very interesting. And how much does this cost per employee?
It's actually a very reasonable pricing model. It's based on per monitored account, and it's a monthly fee. So it can be as low as $2 a month per employee. It really depends upon the scale of the deployment and other parameters. But yeah, it's pretty affordable for a business.
Yeah.
For us SMB, they can really get a very affordable protection.
Sure.
Another quick question. So I know on Facebook I can set my account so that only my friends can view it, or certain portions of it, or my wall or whatever. And I would imagine that you probably can't scan those accounts. Is that correct?
So as I mentioned, our objective is to help companies protect them from any public disclosures which are impacting their brand. So if you're posting a message only to your friends, we're not scanning that.
Yeah.
But if you're posting messages which are accessible by everyone, they are getting monitored.
Yeah, and actually people who are that stupid anyway usually don't set their Facebook accounts to be private. So.
And it's also triggered by certain keywords, so it's not like they're actively monitoring.
If you're stupid enough to disclose corporate information, you're probably not smart enough to set your Facebook account correctly.
And, this is really one of those cases where a lot of times we see this happening accidentally. Where an employee was tweeting something or writing something on Facebook, not realizing that it can go viral.
That old DM that's not really a DM.
Exactly.
You didn't quite put that right. Yeah.
Wasn't a direct message. Well, thank you so much, Manish. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we wrap up?
Well, the only thing I would say is, from our side, we're receiving a lot of interest in the product and a lot of traction, and we're going to be adding newer capabilities around the various social networks. One thing which was unique to this product is that it lets you, track to a specific employee account what's being said, which is critical if the company wants to mitigate against damage, because most of the internet monitoring solutions are very generic and they do not give you any employee-level intelligence.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Manish. We have Manish Kalia with TWiCC and Social Sentry is the name of the product.
Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
So what is actually the website for Social Sentry specifically? Is it just socialsentry.com?
No, it's actually teneros.com/socialsentry.
Perfect. Let's make sure we get that up in the chat room. All right. Well, on that note, I think we have a sponsor to thank again.
Well, I think we do. Let me get out my Storm Pad, as I know I'll call it. It's my Storm Pad. Storm on Demand, an infrastructure as a service cloud computing platform that is powerful enough to replace dedicated servers, but not my iPad. I'm not going to let them replace that. Sorry. A proprietary cloud platform that was designed by Liquid Web, one of the largest web hosting providers with over 12 years of experience. It is easier to use and less expensive than Amazon EC2. Do you not think so, Shield Maiden? You have a look of doubt on your face. I think you're wrong. It is powerful enough.
Of course it is.
All right. Just want to make sure we're getting that straight. Features include server setup in minutes, easy scaling, backup and restoration capabilities, and pay-as-you-go utility-style billing. Also, we must point out little guys that are really awesome, like these.
Push-ups.
Options include cPanel, Fantastico, Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, fully managed servers, private networking, and you can fly if you use it. No, not really. And much more. Storm on Demand. StormOnDemand.com and at Storm on Demand. Please thank them.
At Storm.
Storm on Demand. Like my shirt. Storm.
Yes, proudly displayed on my co-host today.
That's right. I can be bought, apparently.
Well, I think that about wraps things up for today. Right. So, of course, please, please, please tweet out to our sponsors at Verticore, at Storm On Demand, at NetDNA CDN, because you could win more prizes.
You could. I might give away an iPad.
He may give away an iPad, but not to his co-host.
Haven't announced anything yet, but I might soon.
Exactly.
Right,
wink, wink. Can I do that? Did I do that right?
You did it right.
Okay.
That's good. Good.
And we, of course, just want to thank our guests one more time. So we have Sundar Raghavan, who is with SkyTap, and also Manish Kalia with Teneros, and their product is Social Sentry. Yep. So make sure you check those out. Go back and check out their demo. They're pretty good products. I think it's worth it.
Absolutely right.
So, and also, make sure you're following This Week in Cloud Computing.
Please do.
TWI Cloud Comp, pound TWiCC, especially when you're thanking our sponsors. So,
checking out our other shows.
Yeah.
At thisweekend.com. We're actually sold out of sponsorships on this show, but we still have slots open on some of our other shows. So if you're interested, email sponsors@thisweekend.com. Again, we're sold out on cloud computing, unfortunately, for all the other sponsors, not for us. But for our other shows, we still have some slots available. So please do contact us.
Yep. And of course, when you have story ideas, when you want to be a guest, if you've got a trade show coming up, a webinar you want to promote, please send those to pitch@thisweekend.com.
Yep, we do read those.
We read each and every one of them, and we're filling out our schedule. So on that note, next week, same time, same place, same cloud time, same cloud channel.
No, different cloud time, 3:30.
Oh, different cloud time.
That's right.
Yes, 3:30 p.m. And I am your host, Amanda Coulong, This Week in Cloud Computing.